Okay, hello, welcome back to another game of chess. Today I'm facing the move e4, and recently I've been playing the Scandinavian quite often. I've been liking getting these kind of more open positions with c6 lines. I don't think I'm going to go c6 immediately. I think I'll play knight f6 here, the modern Scandinavian. I'm yet to do proper, my due diligence in terms of research into this line. But after knight c3, this is actually a line that I used to play when I played the Alekhine defense, or rather Alekhine's defense. Knight f6, knight c3, d5 and takes. The most appropriate response there, I believe, is to take here, and then they've pre-moved it and we take here. Now, if they play knight f3, we've got a nice position with bishop g4, but instead we see queen f3. That sucks. It sucks because, they're offering a queen trade so early. I'm just far from inclined to take it. Honestly, I think queen c6 might be the engine's best move, because then if queen takes, we play knight takes, we get some development there. Maybe we put a little pressure on c2. But frankly, I'd rather resign than trade the queens on move 5. So, we're going to play queen a5 here. Not exactly sure where this queen belongs, but in some Scandinavian lines, it's not ridiculous to put on a5. It also slows down the ability of my opponent to push their d-pawn, which maybe has some implications in terms of the development of this bishop here. I mean, of course, they can go c3, d4, or they can just, carry on and develop, for instance, the light square bishop with a fairly significant threat on f7, of course, as we see. I'm almost certain this will have been at least marginally inaccurate. Maybe I should have given a check, who knows. But I guess I'll play e6. I mean, I don't really feel like I'm left with much of a choice here. I'd imagine we see the knight developed and my opponent castles kingside. They could also... okay, what? In a kind of opera game-esque way, they've realigned the queen to b3, such that there's a nice battery here with the bishop, but also there's pressure on b7. I'm just not that convinced by this. I mean, maybe it's good, but pretty simply I'm going to play knight c6. I guess maybe bishop b5 is interesting, bishop d7. It doesn't particularly look that interesting. I can play a6 quite easily. There's half an idea to give this flipping guy. Why? Why are you so desperate to trade the queens? This is forced now, no? Brilliant. So my opponent forces a queen trade because, I don't know, they're scared. This is horrible. This is legitimately horrible. I hate this. Frankly embarrassing behavior from my opponent. Anyway, okay. What can we do? I guess I could come back to b6, and if you take, I could take with the a-pawn. That doesn't seem unreasonable. We'll go for it, I guess. I mean, the forced queen trade really is... I can't possibly for the life of me fathom why you'd be that hell-bent on the queen trade. Now we'll take with the bishop. Right, okay. Queen trade, I've got a bishop pair, I've got an open rook, it's an endgame. Maybe you could argue my pawns are slightly worse in terms of, for instance, we've got these double pawns here on the b file. However, defensively they're going to do quite a good job. Actually, the open a file might be more preferable than having the pawn on a7. I don't know, I still feel pretty decent about the position. I'd imagine it makes some sense to play the move bishop d5 and just go after this pawn straight away. I guess a3 is probably an easy remedy to that. I'm going to play bishop e7. We'll stay nice and flexible here. Immediately then, I guess playing bishop f6, getting the bishops on both the fianchetto diagonals, and then I guess bishop d5 putting pressure on this does make some sense. a3, if they play b3, then we can of course take and then win the rook. But okay, just a bunch of passive pawn moves. Without the queen on the board, it's kind of hard to exploit that. What I'd love to be able to do is break towards the center with e5 while there's king still in the center, but I think my opponent will just get time to play knight here, maybe even castling or playing king f2 should they wish to do so. I think I will just castle here. Probably rook e8 and e5 makes a whole lot of sense as a bit of a game plan. If I play rook e8 here, of course they take on c7, but then e5 takes with check. I really would rather not lose this pawn, Let's play c5. That makes some sense. Should you take, you redeem my pawns. If you don't take, maybe I'm taking. Okay. This seems impossible to justify here. Why on earth would you do that? I now have no pawn structural problems. Okay, e5. Get out of my face. Get out of my face. I absolutely despise the way my opponent is currently playing chess. The annoying thing is I probably don't have much of an advantage that I can actually claim here. I'm going to play b6 to stabilize this. We maybe sit the bishop pleasantly on c6, or I might play bishop c4, just enact a pin here, I guess. Okay, it doesn't seem wildly convincing. It at least comes with tempo though, and maybe you have to play a kind of uncomfortable rook e1 first, then move the knight, and then maybe fight for the d file, although the e file is definitely valid to be a place for the rook. Let's start with, I guess, rook d8. Maybe I could put this rook on d8, this rook on e8 and try and play e4. I really don't think I have many prospects down here, so I am going to go rook a d8 here. I mean, I must have at the very least an equal position. I'm hoping it's better somehow. I'll play rook e8, I guess. We could play the check to induce the pawn push. I mean, this is sickeningly boring from my opponent, but I guess it's part of the game, But in some painfully true way, it does kind of take two to tango. And if your opponent is just hell-bent on the most boring position of all time, well, I guess we're going to have to dance that dance with them. However, I may now bring out the most Magnesian endgame you've ever seen, drawing blood from a stone, playing for some interesting imbalances. I mean, Magnus would win this position against anyone on the planet. Why the hell can't I? Some interesting logic there. Let's, I think, play e4, honestly. And the reason I'm going to play e4 is I can't quite justify it. I want to perturb this stuff. Now, when you take with the rook, if I take with my rook here, you play pawn takes. So my plan actually was to take with the bishop, which may be a little dubious, but I just want to, you know, maybe soften up this king a little, get some activity along the e-file. I think there's a lot of soft and loose pieces, of course. I say a lot, I mean, there are two pieces here, but the pressure on here, for instance, if this does open up, then all of a sudden there could be some pretty serious pressure and some hopeful tactics. Again, it does seem kind of dry, but it does seem like I'm the one playing for a win here for some reason. I guess maybe the bishop pair just feels pretty convincing. Now, I'd imagine my opponent should probably go for a4, a5 at some point. Can they do that just yet? I'm not entirely sure. Maybe they play the move f4. However, that will give me a supported passed pawn when I play maybe f5 there, which should be quite strong. So they take. I'll play rook takes, of course. Can't move the bishop now, which, I mean, not that you particularly want to, but, you know, we've definitely got some activity here. Okay. Does this make some sense? Hear me out. They don't have a back rank, makes the bishop still holds d8. We hang this. We then take this with check. The king moves, and we play f6. That just sucks. I'm pretty sure that just sucks. I could start with a check, but just g3. I guess I step back. Is inducing g3 helpful? I guess also if I give the check, maybe there's just knight here. And I mean, I could take and force you to take with the pawn, but we're just going into an opposite color bishop's endgame, which obviously sucks. Okay, let's just play bishop f6 here. I mean, maybe you play rook d6, apply a little pressure over on to b6. I guess maybe there I play rook back. Oh, okay, they move the knight. Slightly more interesting stuff. We will go back here with the rook to stabilize b6. d8 being held by the bishop is very pleasant, of course. And I mean, maybe they're going to try and do this and remove the bishop and come in for some kind of checkmate, but at least for now this is held. And that whole idea of pushing the pawn and trying to open up the king a little, it seems to be manifesting into a little something. A little something. I'd very much like to play g6, and I think I'm just going to do it immediately. Oh, hold on. Tactic. Here, check. And that is all she wrote. And that is all she wrote. Trust your pieces. Soften up the king. I had no idea what I was doing this whole game until precisely this moment, in which, from a superior position, tactics flow. If the king takes here, it is not just bishop g5 winning back the rook for some trade. This bishop holds both squares on which the king could possibly defend the rook. So, of course, after king takes, bishop check, the king has, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 legal moves, all of which hang the rook, leaving me with an extra piece. Bellissimo. We may see resignation from my opponent here. The bishop holding d8. I mean, this is nasty stuff indeed. This bishop just slicing. Now, that was massively an unforced error from my opponent. However, it is very subtle. I mean, I don't know. I don't blame them for not seeing that. Is there anything interesting? I guess rook d8, I could just take and then you take whatever. I probably still give the check because, I don't know, this looks advantageous. So they bring the rook in now, but it's not like you're threatening anything meaningful at all. I mean, you're threatening the pawn here, but I can very, very easily just step back, giving my opponent a taste of their own bitter medicine, forcing the trade, or maybe not forcing, but at the very least offering up the trade, as they did with the queens at the start of the game and saying, listen, you're looking for counterplay. You're going to find none. You're going to find absolutely none. There's no mate here. We hold the pawn. If you take here, you don't even get a tiny bit of the fact that my pawn becomes isolated because we could just take back with the bishop. So they move the rook again. I mean, they're going to fight on. Honestly, fairly admirable. However, I do think a fairly convincing move is just bishop h4 here. We pin the knight to the king. Again, the bishop still holds d8. I mean, we're being very mindful of that. And of course, we're not going to take this knight unless we can with check, potentially, to force a trade and thereby, you know, even less counterplay for my opponent. So they move the king here. Now, if I take this, of course, we walk into mate. I'm not going to be so foolish, though. Instead, I will create a little luft first, maybe just with g6. Also holding the knight from either of these squares. That seems pretty reasonable. Could I play this check? I guess you just go here. But then I go check here. Oh, that is nasty. Check, king here, check. You take this, but I take this, and that's just a very nice trade. And if check, and the king moves off this way, I mean, I can always create the luft. I can always create the luft afterwards. We're going to give this check, just in case. Because, you've got to just provide opportunities for your opponent to blunder. That's all chess is, you know? Chess play perfectly is ostensibly a draw, but if you just keep providing opportunities for your opponent to make bad moves, just asking difficult questions, that really is what chess boils down to at the end of the day. Ask some difficult questions, provide a few dangerous positions for your opponent, and watch the blunders come rolling in. So, okay, yeah, the king, they don't fall for it, but This king is looking extremely caged, so it may not be long for this realm. Of course, by the way, this is now a mate threat. I should probably just play g6. Yeah, okay, we'll play g6 just so I can't get mated. Also, by the way, forcing the king here means there's no knight e4, which is just quite amusing, because actually now the knight just has no moves after g6. So this could actually have been some hyper accurate move, meaning that if you want to save the knight, which you'd imagine you would want to, because otherwise not only do we trash the structure here, I mean, I don't think I actually would trade that knight off. Maybe, who knows? But at least my opponent, it would drastically minimize any chances of counterplay. And they push the pawn. Do I take? Is very interesting indeed. Honestly, I think we just do. We give our opponent, as I say, a little bit of a taste of their own medicine. Come in here with the rook now. I mean, forcing trades is how they started this game, and forcing trades will be how I end it. And then, ooh. It's looking somehow dubious. I can just take this though. And you play a5. Are they going to get a passed pawn here? I take this. They play a5. I think what I may prefer to do, I know my time is running a little low, but I kind of like the idea of playing bishop b3 here. Am I being stupid? Let's just start with this check actually. What am I doing? Let's just start with the check. We'll force the king over to one of these two squares. If you go here, check is going to be a trade, so you're going to have to go here. Then, whatever, we'll just grab this. You can play a5, of course. I'm not particularly convinced by it. Maybe I should be, though. Here. Again, if you play rook takes, we can just trade. Time is looking a little... I'm a little wanting. 24 seconds is not maybe the most comfortable amount of time I could possibly have here. They can just give the check, and then maybe play a6, actually. It seems I've given very unnecessary counterplay for my opponent. I don't think I'll have any problem here, though. I'm feeling cool, calm, and collected. In 24 seconds, I mean, 24, what a beautiful number. Highly composite. The Babylonians had something of a fetish for the number 24. 24 hours in a day. That's so nasty. Let's go here. Are they going to take this? And then I'll go here. Oh, that's filthy. If I'd taken that, there was no way to stop promotion, I don't think. I mean, maybe there was some sequence of checks that I could have gone for, but I highly doubt it. Now they go here. I'm going to give a check here. Oh, no. My piece is going to be hanging. Nah, because, okay, we could always just trade the rooks. Yeah, we should just be fine here. We should just be fine. 10 seconds. Plenty of time. Absolutely plentiful time on the clock. Not even marginally concerned. Not even slightly concerned right now. Here, pre-move this capture, of course. Pre-move this capture with check. We can take this. We can also pre-move this because, I mean, it's going to be check. And then, yeah, now we can do this. Take here. Pre-move this. And we can always sack for this pawn. So, check. If you take this, we just push. Goodness gracious me, we hold all these squares. And we might as well just go over now. Real quick. Pre-moving this, because if they promote, we take. And if they don't, we just block. Now we just hold this here. Walk in with the king, of course. And then just hold them out. Push. Here. Here. Push once more. Oh, this is going to be potentially very beautiful indeed. Go on. Oh, that's nasty. That's absolutely nasty. A pawn, bishop. Oof. G, flipping G, baby. Let's analyze that game. Okay, so here we are in the analysis in what seems to have been a 97% accurate game with a mere 2 inaccuracies. If we just zoom out here, sorry, I don't think you'd have been able to see this current screen, the accuracy. That's why I was so aggressively zoomed in. But at no point in that game was I at all in trouble, kind of because my opponent just, didn't really fight for much with white. Kind of embarrassingly, to be completely honest. I do not have much respect for the way that they just played with the white pieces. I think that's, you get the tempo to start with white. Why the hell are you trying to trade the queen so early? Anyway, let's go through the game. So, e4, d5, we've got the Masters database open here. And instead of taking straight away knight f6, the modern variation, knight c3, takes, queen takes, and then, yeah, instead of knight f3, we saw queen f3. Sorry, I've got the Lichess database open. Let's open the Masters database. There we go. Now, this is just generally ill-advised, I believe, to play knight takes d5 here. I mean, you can see 67 master games. White is not winning any of them. I mean, apparently, Vladimir Perasipkin, probably butchered that. Apparently he clutched up in 1978, but you see that this doesn't really have much of a chance for white at the top level now. That doesn't mean that it's bad for white at all, especially at my level. I'm nowhere near these masters, of course. But I've never been convinced by it because the main approach of knight f3 allows you to just play a very simple bishop g4, bishop e2, knight c6, castles setup. And black just has super nice open play here, e5, maybe even some kind of fishing pole sacrifice, and you could play this and, I don't know, go out and give a check here and sack a rook, etc, etc. So yeah, my opponent didn't go for knight f3, instead went for queen f3, which if we open the Masters database again, apparently is played It's one of the more dominant moves, so I guess my opponent thought they were being mature here. I understand this, fair enough. But then I play queen a5. And we depart from all known master theory because I'm an ingenious player that comes up with my own theory. No, I mean, this is just because I was not at all familiar with the theory here. But queen a5, very reasonable. Bishop c4, e6, queen here, knight c6, and then just queen. I mean, this sucks. This absolutely sucks. And queen b6 being one of the best moves at least. I could have made this trade and then played bishop d7, maybe to play some kind of knight d4 or knight b4. White probably could play c3. I mean, who knows? My pawn structure's fine here though, and white just has nothing convincing. However, I go back to b6, trying to get a little activity for the rook maybe, as some kind of compensation for the fact that I've had to trade down the queens, just because, I mean, hold on. Put that thought on hold. Why did they take here? I cannot possibly understand why they made this move. It just makes no sense to me. Why would you give me the bishop? I just don't get it. Anyway, I'm not even going to delve deeper into that because I just don't think there's a good justification for that whatsoever. Even practically, even giving my opponent the benefit of the doubt, it's just a bad move. Don't give up the bishop pair if you have no reason to give up the bishop pair. Anyway, we then start to activate the pieces. Bishop f6, okay. Bishop here, pretty reasonable. A3. Castle's not fantastic. The engine wants g5. Potentially to harass with g4 or maybe try and soften this up, which would make some sense. Knight e2, rook g8, and then potentially g4. Definitely would have been an interesting way to gather some tempo maybe. But we castle instead. Reasonable. I then play c5. Very reasonable, dodging the threat of the bishop taking. And of course, I mean, they're redeeming my pawn structure. Just doesn't make any practical sense. I push. I play b6. Again, there's not a whole world of stuff to be said about this because I was kind of just playing decent moves, trying to formulate desperately some kind of game plan, trying to just optimize my pieces and make my pawn structure make some kind of sense. Pushing the pawn, of course, to try and soften up this king, open up the e-file, which, as we saw, these kind of vague intuitions as to what might be a reasonable setup for my pieces ended up in a position which, I mean, after bishop f6, this is like very, very, very equal, and the rook goes back, of course. My opponent's kind of playing for one thing, and that's me blundering back rank mate somehow. I mean, yes, they could also play on this side of the board. They've got a 3-on-2. They could try and create a pass pawn and play there, but I'm trying to create chances against this king, as I did, because rook here, which is an understandable move. You want to stabilize b2, for instance. If there wasn't a tactic, it would seem to be a small improvement, or I mean, I can at least understand why they play it, but then pretty immediately, and I'm quite happy with this, I found rook takes bishop, which is awesome because, of course, after the king takes, we have the check, and then the king would have to move to one of these 3 squares, to which I could then just take this rook, be up a piece, and be absolutely chilling. And then from this point on, if we look at the graph, I mean, you see this massive fall off here with the blunder of rook d2. This was then just pretty smoothly converted, honestly. I'm not going to spend too long going through this because there's not really a whole lot to say. Although, if here, of course, again, just providing an opportunity for them to make this mistake, allowing a forced trade. In fact, sorry, not even a forced trade. What am I talking about? I just get a rook for a bishop. And win more material there. I believe in the game I said there was a forced trade as well. Clearly, that's just a win of material. But instead, they come here, then g6. The knight doesn't really have anywhere to go. I trade this off, going behind with the rook. Kind of waste a bit of time thinking way too much, and then of course not taking this, because then a takes b7, and how the hell am I stopping this? Well, the answer is I'm absolutely not, but of course there's no reason to blunder that. We just go across here, and then after the rook takes, go and attack this with the bishop. They can't push. We're going to go and win this pawn. As long as they don't have a pass pawn, I'm not worried. So then we give up this pawn, come across with the check, stabilize the bishop, come up with the rook, bring my king in, give a little check, go and mop up these pawns so we're not too worried about anything. And then at this point, force the trade of rooks. I mean, I think I had I had 6.6 seconds here left. So, I mean, I was half considering just sacking for the pawn if it somehow got to it, but trading the rooks and then starting to push my own pawns. Maybe, I don't know how efficiently I did this, but practically speaking, pre-moving bishop c8 here. Sorry, no, what? King d6, oh yeah, sorry, because pre-moving bishop t8 here makes a lot of sense. I'm attacking the pawn, they're going to lose it, I can pre-move this. If they had moved the king, then pre-moving bishop c8, no harm, no foul, blockade this, take a next move. Nice bit of tactical pre-moving, of course capture the queen. Then just, I mean, bringing the bishop back so everything's nice and held, pushing, sliding on in there with the king, using the pawn, and then this absolutely disgraceful, oh my lord, that's disgraceful. Checkmate with f6 here. I mean, of course the king's trying to stop me promoting. You know, I could have just pushed here and then they're not stopping me from promoting. However, I kind of thought maybe I was creating this idea in my head. I wasn't exactly sure of how it was going to manifest, but once the king goes here, we give the check, and if you go here, then we can promote to a rook for style points. But you know, you come under this way, and damn, That is a nice end. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. It was definitely made far more exciting than it needed to be at the end. But that is an absolute staple of the Will Taylor Chess channel. Unnecessary time scrambles, because I use my time to talk about completely irrelevant things rather than being particularly focused on the game at hand. Another nice win, taking the elo to, I believe, 2174 on Lichess. Those of you who are still watching and have stayed this far into the video, first of all, thank you so much for supporting me to this extent. But secondly, I want your opinion in the comments. Do you think I should record and post every Lichess game that I play in Rapid Chess on Lichess? What do you guys think? Wins, losses, all of it, and just see how high I can get. I'm planning on taking the Lichess elo quite seriously. Chess.com, I play on stream, I play at like 1 AM, I'm just consistently tilted, not paying attention, talking to chat. I don't have much pride attached to my Chess.com elo for these reasons. However, I do think it would be kind of nice to take the Lichess elo pretty seriously, at least the Rapid elo that is, and record every time I play on here, posting wins, losses. I don't know. It could be interesting. I could maybe start a little road to 2300 Lichess series. Who knows? Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.